My name is Mason Marangella. I build rigs for the industry's top professionals. Now, I'm teaching guitarists how to build rigs like the pros, with DIY tips, easy mods, and all the tricks of the trade. I am the Rig Doctor.
There we are. Got it. So we should have audio. For those of you who missed the opening conversation, it was really just for our friends over on Instagram, just encouraging them to come over and join us here on the YouTube side. And that's just so that they kind of understand that kind of the live interaction is going to be happening here, and that everything is going to be kind of centered around this, but we'll still
There we are.
questions when it comes over.
Got it.
So we should have audio. For those of you who missed the opening conversation, it was really just for our friends over on Instagram, just encouraging them to come over and join us here on the YouTube side. And that's just so that they kind of understand that kind of the live interaction is going to be happening here. And so this is the Van Halen rig, and this is centered around this, but we'll still
there we are.
Questions. Van Halen comes over.
Got it.
Tribute rig, all of the same. So we should have audio. For those of you who missed the opening conversation, it was really just for our friends over on Instagram, just encouraging them to come over and join us here on the YouTube side. And that's just so that they kind of understand that kind of the live interaction is going to be happening here. And this is the Van Halen rig, and this is centered around this, but we'll still
there we are.
Questions. Van Halen comes over.
Got it.
Tribute things that I've all
So we should have audio. For those of you who missed the opening conversation, it was really just for our friends over on Instagram, just encouraging them to come over and join us here on the YouTube side. And that's just so that they kind of understand that kind of the live interaction is going to be happening here. And
this is the Van Halen rig, and this is
centered around this, but we'll still
there we are.
Questions.
Van Halen comes over.
Got it.
Let's see. How about now? Some people are hearing double audio. Tell me about now if the audio problem is fixed. Let's see if that helped. We shouldn't have any other audio sources here. I'm looking up at our... Anyway, all right, let's get back to the Van Halen rig. Let me know if there's any issue with the double audio sound. Huh. All right. The audio now. Did it change? Are we bad? Are we good? All right, we should be good now. Everything should be good. Okay.
All right. So getting back to the Van Halen rig, this is, again, a part for part, pretty much one-to-one. The only thing that's missing, of course, is the Echoplex, and I use the Dunlop Echoplex. I think that's the closest sounding of all of the Echoplex emulating pedals that are out there. That includes all the Strymon stuff, all of that. Modded the flanger for true bypass, and I modded the MXR phaser for true bypass, and I put a power jack on the side of it there. And then the GE10, I put a true bypass switch on it and also a 9-volt on it, so it doesn't have to be hardwired. So that's pretty cool. Other housekeeping thing that I wanted to mention is a lot of people have been asking about Black Friday sales and things of that nature. So if you are interested in the Black Friday sales, I highly recommend that you sign up on our website for our newsletter, because we'll be giving out exclusive offers to people that have signed up for, let me get rid of this. So we're going to be giving out exclusive offers for people that have signed up for our newsletter for Black Friday sales. Not only will we be hosting the Black Friday sales, but pretty much the dealers that are offering Black Friday sales will be offering the same offers that we're offering. So that will be pretty much unanimous amongst all of the dealers that are participating. Some may choose not to participate in this, and that's solely on a dealer-by-dealer basis. So definitely sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in getting some Black Friday discount codes that are specific to people that are followers and subscribers to our YouTube channels, as well as some of the other platforms. So if you want to stay in the loop, definitely make sure that you sign up for those so you can get some exclusive offers. The other thing I wanted to talk about is NAMM. A lot of people have been asking us about the NAMM show, and we will be there, but we'll primarily be there in the capacity of doing YouTube videos. We're going to be doing some collaborations with different YouTube influencers, really focusing in on the Rig Doctor thing with a couple of people to be announced. So I'll let you know who those people are as we get a little bit closer. But we have already 3 people that are set to go, and really excited to be working with these individuals while we're there. A lot of people have been asking too about pedals. There will be some pedals that will be released at NAMM. I won't tell you what it is, but it will be in an enclosure that is this size. This is going to be the size of the newest Vertex pedal. A lot of people have been asking about smaller sized enclosures. To give you a sense, this would be the normal size Vertex enclosure. This will be the one of our new pedal that will be coming soon. So just to kind of give you an idea, and we'll actually also have another pedal that's coming in this form factor. So 2 foot switches, 6 controls, 2 toggle switches. So maybe put your guesses in the comments below as what you think these might be. What kind of new concoctions have we come up with here? So that's about it on the housekeeping thing. I'm going to start taking some questions, and I'm going to try to run for a full hour or so. So I'm going to go until about 6:10. My camera, this one is a little low on batteries. I have a second battery here, so if we go black for a second, it'll just be that I'm changing out the battery, but the feed should still continue to go even in spite of that, so it shouldn't disconnect us. So I'm going to go up to the beginning. We're going to start with Sarge. I just received my Strymon bridge to mount my timeline, Big Sky, and Mobius. Can the RGM PBC10 control the MIDI function of all 3 pedals? Can you give us an overview of how MIDI works? I'm going to answer this. I just want to let people know who are over on the Instagram side that we are on YouTube Live. And if you want to have the full participation, if you hear me answering these questions, you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because it's on the screen on our live stream on YouTube. So you can join us there. The link is in our profile. Yes, you can get it to any MIDI switcher that I've listed in the description that's in this particular video. That includes the RGM, the Musicom Lab, the Boss units. They all can control MIDI. I can give you a rundown of the technology of MIDI, but I think what's probably more helpful for your question in particular is really around. No audio again, huh? Anybody say no audio? No. Okay, cool. I thought somebody was saying no audio. I was looking at an old comment. And so anyway, the idea is that you can recall presets that you've saved within a MIDI pedal, like a Strymon type device, and you can tell it, okay, I want bank 1, or let's say preset 1A to fire when I have it on foot switch 1, which also recalls my delay, or sorry, my reverb, and also recalls my overdrive and my compressor. So MIDI allows you the ability to be able to recall anything that's programmed within your Strymon device or your source audio device or Eventide device or fill-in-the-blank device that's MIDI equipped, and be able to not only recall that pedal if it's in a loop, but also recall any of the presets that you've already set within that, in addition to having other pedals simultaneously happen. And on the PVC 10, it's the Rolls Royce. It's the best switcher that you can buy. And so I think you did good by buying that one, and I think you'll be really happy with it. And they have a lot of really great tutorials where you can really learn about the depths of what that does. I mean, that is a really, really sophisticated device, great software that comes with it. And if you get stuck on any of that, just give us a holler, and I can point you in the right direction. But also Ron and Sherry at RGM are incredibly helpful with that sort of stuff. Next question, Kevin Lee. Hey Mason, what are your top 3 favorite electric guitars? Well, I have 2 of my 3, and I'll show you because they're right behind me. All right, so first one is this, and I'm sorry I don't have anything mic'd up, so I can't really show you how it sounds. But this is a 1968 ES335. This is a guitar I found on Craigslist, actually, locally. And it was really, really inexpensive. And I actually think that for vintage guitars, late 60s 335s are an incredible buy for what they are. So they get a bad rep because they have kind of a narrower width at the nut, compared to some of the earlier 60s or late 50s Gibsons. But they were inconsistent, so sometimes you can find a really great one that is not super thin. This one had been refretted, but to give you a sense, I paid $2,800 for this guitar. If I had bought a 63 reissue of this same guitar, it would have been more expensive. And this is maybe a little bit under market, but these are usually in the low 3,000s. So I think instead of buying a custom shop 335, if you're in the market for that, look for a late 60s one, and you can find some really excellent guitars. So that's just one. My second one is this guitar, which is a 58 style Strat. It's a custom shop one from I guess it would have been maybe like 2000, early 2000s. So a buddy of mine, Mike Eldred, used to work for the custom shop and would pick me out incredible guitars. And this is one that he picked me out. And it's just a great Strat. I was never a maple neck guy, but this one sounds incredible. Everything is stock on it, but it has like some John Cruz like custom wound pickups, and it's a really great guitar. And then my third favorite guitar, just need to figure out where to put these. My third favorite guitar, gosh, you know, it's hard to say because between those two, there's not really much I can't do. You know what? I have a '59 Les Paul Junior with a P90 that I really like, and it's an original one. And I got that one too on Craigslist, I think for $1,200, and had a broken headstock. And that one's like a great rock and roll guitar. It doesn't really stay in tune very well, but it sounds great. So those are my 3. All right, next question. Stefan Cano. Hey, Uncle Mason, I have an ES8. Do I put the Vertex boost in one of the loops before or after the ES8? So the cool thing that I really like to do with the Vertex boost when you're using it in a switcher, most of the switchers now have volume pedal loops, which is super hip. And you can move it around to different places in the signal path as a result of that. So what I really like to do is I put it in the volume pedal loop, and if you have a volume pedal, you can put the volume pedal in that loop as well, because you can connect any volume pedal or expression pedal to the Vertex boost. And that way you get the most mileage out of it, and you can also change the position of the boost, right? Because if it's in the volume pedal loop and you're using a switching matrix like the ES8, you can put stuff before or after, and you can adjust the position of the volume pedal with that as well, which is really hip. So I would say do that, and if you have any questions on how to achieve that, just let me know. I've done this 1,000 times with that switcher. We got a super chat, 2 super chats, so I just want to bring these up here real quick. We have one here from Macon. Let me know if I'm saying that right. Uncle Mason, where do I go to get a quote to get a pedal board with you? Well, I'm really sorry, but I really am not building pedal boards anymore for hire. I kind of am just doing it for the YouTube space, and I only really have time to do like 1 or 2 a month, and I'm committed through January already at this point, so I can send you kind of like our questionnaire that we send to people. But if you need something done soon, I wouldn't be your guy, and I can recommend to you several great people that could help you with this project if it's not me. So you can just email us right through our website. We have a kind of like a contact section on vertexeffects.com, and that's kind of right over in this area, and you'll be able to find us. So I hope that helps, and let me know if I pronounce your name correctly. I got another super chat here from SD Design. Thank you again for the super chat. When will the Vertex Songbird course be ready? No pressure or anything. A best guess. Well, do I have the one here? No, I don't have my one in here anymore. The problem with that chorus, and if you haven't checked that out, we have a video of Ben Forehand, who's like one of my favorite guitar players, using it, and it sounds amazing. The problem is that getting Bucket Brigade chips that were in the original tri-stereo chorus is like impossible. Like Full Tone tried, and he was already kind of at the bottom of the barrel. With Bucket Brigade chips, if you're trying to get the originals, like any of the MN series stuff, like the Panasonic stuff, if you're finding them now, you're finding the ones that have already been graded out. You know, like they're like the bottom of the barrel because they've been graded through so many times by different manufacturers that they're almost unusable. And so they're really noisy. They're not really that consistent. And my intent with the Songbird was that I wasn't going to do it unless I make 1,000. Because for us, with the volume that we do now, you know, like last year we almost sold 10,000 pedals. We're like 9,800, you know, something like that. This year I think we'll go over that because I think we still got a little bit more, another month or so to go. But you know, if I couldn't make 1,000, then it wasn't worth it. So really what I need to do, and what I've been too lazy to do, is kind of retool and say, hey, it's not going to be exactly the same components 1-to-1 as a tri-stereo chorus, but it's going to be as close as we can get with what's available now to do that, because I don't think I can reasonably do it with what that we have available now in order to make it with full Bucket Brigade and all that stuff. So I hope that helps. So thank you for your super chat, SD Design. I really appreciate that. All right, let's go. You know what? We've been ignoring our friends over on Instagram, so let's see if we can bring a guy from Instagram, or gal, although YouTube tells me that most of the people that watch my videos it's like 100% guys. Okay, so somebody on the Instagram side had asked, what do I think about the Friedman buffer bay? And if you don't know what the Friedman buffer bay, it's kind of like his patch bay / buffer device. And the cool thing about that is, you know, obviously Dave Friedman is kind of a legendary rig builder. He was kind of the guy that came after Robert Bradshaw and kind of in sort of the lineage of things, which is, you know, he's been around for a long time, since the early 90s. But the problem with that particular one is that it's only an input buffer, or you can patch it in at any place in the signal, but there's only a single buffer, and you really need to have an input and an output buffer in order to effectively recreate the sound of the guitar plugged directly into the amp with nothing in between, even if you're running 12, 15, 20 pedals. So I like the buffer in it is kind of similar to the Pete Cornish buffer, as I recall, which has a color. It's not neutral, but it's a nice color. But there is no output buffer, so you're still relying on whatever the last pedal is to drive the line back to the amp, and typically it's not going to be really designed for that intent. So let's go over to another person here on YouTube. Let's see. All right, Riley Tech. Are there any more Game of Tones episodes coming, or are the copyright strikes getting out of hand? Yeah, so that's why we stopped Game of Tones. And if you aren't familiar with what Game of Tones is, you should definitely check it out. It was basically where we would attempt to recreate classic, guitar-oriented music. So this was like Sultans of Swing, Mark Knopfler, or what else did we do? We did some Jeff Beck stuff where we did Two Rivers, and so we'd play the original song to a blindfolded audience, and then we would play them our recreation of that same exact song. And a lot of times we had the original tracks. I have kind of a similar resource to what Rick Beato has for his What Makes a Song Great, where I can play the original tracks and then just sub out the guitar player. And then we would see if they could tell the difference. In a lot of cases, most people were maybe only 50% of the time they were right. And then invariably there'd just be one person that could detect it every time, which was great. But it was a really fun show to do, and I loved doing it. But our last one that we did was an Eagles one. We did Hotel California, and it was like up for 2 weeks, and it got like 160,000, and then it got banned. Like not even where I could put it back up, just demonetized. Like I couldn't even put it back up again. So it was kind of frustrating, and then slowly but surely other older ones started getting taken down. And then I felt like, man, the energy and resource that it took to create those videos was so high. And to not be able to get any of the fruit of that was really frustrating. So I've kind of foregone it, but I've shot several more that we haven't put out yet, and so I'm trying to figure out how we can utilize that footage at the very least. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Ethan, yeah, we finished the rig for Corey, and the video's up on YouTube now, so you can check that out. I think it's been up for maybe 5 days or so. Let's see. I'm gonna go to another question on Instagram here. Let's see what we got. All right, here's a question from Stevie Ray Hendricks. You put them all together. I dig that. Or BB Ray Shepherd, another favorite, combining all the bluesmen. What's the best way to get close to the Pete Cornish NG2? Stevie Ray Hendricks, if you can tell me which one that is. I always get confused because he's got so many numbers and letters that don't necessarily mean in what they say. So refresh me on what that is. Is that the one that's more like a big muff? So just comment back, and then I'll come back to you. All right, Ray Ibarra, the RJM PB6 is making me pull my hair out, honestly. Well, you have a lot of resources at your disposal. Firstly, Ron and Sherry are like incredible people, and they will help you if you're having trouble programming it or wiring it. One thing that I would say though is you really need to hook it up to the software first and kind of pre-plan it a little bit, because some of the default settings are not necessarily intuitive, and if you've wired something wrong, it may not be easy for you to troubleshoot it right away, because I don't know that it's exactly like everything is sequential the way that you might think it would be like on a true bypass loop. So just a heads up on there, Ray. Total Evo 7 for NAMM, if it's possible, of course, will you guys be doing a pedalboard building experience like West Coast Customs experience at SEMA? I don't know what that is. Or will the Game of Tones? So we're actually going to be doing everything off-site, because now we have a full-time showroom in LA in a rehearsal complex. And so we're going to be mostly just working on YouTube content that doesn't necessarily have to align with the NAMM show, because a lot of the stuff that gets filmed at NAMM, especially for YouTube, it doesn't really do very well outside of that week of NAMM. And you know, I'm considering doing an episode about NAMM and its viability for people who are manufacturers, because it's really an antiquated way to bring people together, which isn't really necessary now with the internet. So a lot of times some of our biggest dealerships in the world will come to our booth, and I'll say, hey, it's great to see you. It's been, a year since we saw each other last. Like, don't you want to check out the new offerings? They're like, oh no, I saw the videos. It sounded great. It's like they really just want to hang. And it's really not about trying out the products. And in the old days, like when I was a kid and you would go to NAMM, people would have like these whole backroom booths where they would do all of their yearly sales in that day. And that's just not how it works anymore. And so there's a part of me that feels like NAMM is really trying to hold on to the way that business was done in our industry 20 or 30 years ago, and they're trying to make it relevant now, and they keep lowering the bar for the quality of person that goes into NAMM. And it really, at this point, should be completely open to the public, because it's really not a place where people are doing business. It's really more of a place where people can learn about new stuff that are more on a consumer level and not on a business level. And to give you a sense of like those small tiny booths at NAMM, those, when you consider like, you know, hotel and all that stuff, you know, for a staff of 3 are about maybe 12 grand. And so those big booths like Dunlop are like 50,000 plus for that, you know, and I think that I think NAMM has got limited years left in it, in the way that it's done now, unless they adapt. So, you know, I'll be at NAMM, but I'll really just be doing my own thing, and it's just to have a presence there for the hang. It's not really for the viability business-wise for us as a company. Zachary Walker, is it possible to store recall presets on a Mac from a Boss ES5, kind of like a lot of the touring worship guys? I don't know if you can do it in real time, but I know that you can definitely like set parameters to do that. I haven't tried on the ES5, so I don't know. But I bet you there's guys in the P&W community that use this that could answer that better for you. I've never had a client ask me about that, so I don't know. So I'm sorry that I can't be of more help on that one. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. Yeah, we got this one. Talked about the Songbird. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pedals? I think Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen. He has a really cool, let's see. He has a really cool thing that he does. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. You know, all different sorts of this one. Circuit-related things. The Songbird. How things interact. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pedals? Musique, like M-U-S. I think Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen. And he does a great job. He has a really cool. He has a really cool thing that he does. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. You know, all different sorts of circuit-related things. The Songbird. How things interact. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pedals? Musique, primarily for the reverb. I think Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen. And he does a great job. He has a really cool. He has a really cool thing that he does. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. You know, all different sorts of circuit-related things. The Songbird. How things interact. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pedals? Musique, primarily for the reverb. I think Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen. And he does a great job. He has a really cool. He has a really cool thing that he does. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. You know, all different sorts of circuit-related things. The Songbird. How things interact. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pedals? Musique, primarily for the reverb. Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen. And he does a great job. He has a really cool. He has a really cool thing that he does. Oh, yeah, we got our super chats. You know, all different sorts of circuit-related things. The Songbird. How things interact. Let's see. Ethan, any books or articles you suggest for learning about building and designing guitar pickups?
Primarily for the
MS. Jack Orman has one of the best resources for that I've seen.
He does a great job.
He has a really cool, here's a really cool thing that he does. We got our super chats, all different sorts of circuit related things. How things interact. Let's see.
How's that? Better audio this time? Are we back? So, getting back to the folks' question on Instagram here, how do you connect a Mac for editing on the Musicom Lab? It's just a software that you can download from their site. And then you just have I think it's a USB connector, like a USB 2.0C or 2.0B to USB 2.0A. So you can do that for editing with the Musicom Lab. Let's go back to YouTube. Let's see. Let's see. Casey Speed 7 said he couldn't hear my answer. Let me know, Casey, what I was answering. Oh, best input and output buffer. So Casey said he couldn't hear because of the doubled audio. I don't know why that's happening because there's only one audio source in here, and I think I shut off everything else. Let's see if that works better. Maybe that'll be easier if it's a double audio source. Okay, somebody's saying on the Musicom Lab. Let me get back to the music. Let me finish this question. So, best input and output buffer, I think, is the Mesa Boogie Highwire, which is a dual buffer, or using the Empress buffer. Both those are dual buffers, have input and output buffers in the same box. So, I would say that's the one to get, and these are all linked in the description. Let's see. Alright, audio's fixed. Yeah, it's weird that was happening. Okay, so somebody's saying on the Musicom Lab there's no MIDI in, or there's no USB, just MIDI in and MIDI out. So there's if that's the case, there's a cable that's basically like two MIDIs that then merge into like a Y, and then go into a single USB in, and that would be the one that you would need in order to program the Musicom Lab. So just a heads up on that guy. That's how you would do it. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to go to one on Instagram. Somebody asked, are you located in Oakland? If yes, can I drop by? I personally live in Oakland, but all of our manufacturing, for the most part, is in LA, and our showroom is in LA. So I wouldn't have anything to show you here. But if you're in LA, you can reach out to us and we can arrange a showroom visit, pending that we have availability for that particular time. All right. Let's see. All right, back to YouTube. Santi, what's the upcoming products? So upcoming products, we talked about them a little bit in the beginning, but I'll just reiterate for people that are just joining us now. So there is something that's going to be in this size box. Double foot switch, 6 controls, 2 toggles.
single input, single output, and 9-volt. So we're gonna have something new coming in this. You can guess what that might be in the comments. And then we've had a lot of folks asking for some smaller enclosure pedals. So we're gonna be coming out with something that's in this size box. So just to compare, this is like the standard Vertex size. And then this is gonna be one of our new pedals will be coming out around the NAMM time. So guess as to what these might be in the comments below. I'm curious to see if you're thinking what I'm thinking. Some people have speculated already, so we'll see what it ends up being. You'll have to wait a little bit longer though. Let's go to Greg. Greg, I love tube screamers. I always miss that top end feels a little bit rolled off. Is the tone secret capable of filling out the high end, or is it simply mid focused only? No, so the tone secret is really like the context for the tube screamer. The reason why the tube screamer works great for guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan is that he's actually not really using the gain. He's using it into an already overdriven amplifier that's pretty scooped, right? So he's using a super reverb, which doesn't have a lot of mid-range. And if you look at all of his tube screamer settings from back in the day, he's got the volume all the way up almost. He's got the tone almost all the way up, and the gain is almost off. So it's really just being used as a mid boost into a really scooped loud amp. And when you get a Fender really loud, for those of you who have done that, it can get really tubby on the low end and it can get really bright on the top. And so when you add that mid-range compression, it kind of naturally rolls that stuff off and makes it actually fit a lot better into a mix. But the problem is we hear Stevie Ray Vaughan and we think, wow, I really need to turn the gain up to simulate that sound because I'm only playing my Princeton reverb on 3, right? And he was playing a super reverb like on 7 or 8. And so we crank the gain up to compensate to get that feeling, but our bandwidth becomes so narrow because the amp isn't producing a lot of distortion, and so we're compensating with the gain. So what the tone secret does is it allows you basically to simulate the two components that you need. You have a cranked blackface style preamp, and then you have the mid-range section of a tube screamer. So you don't have any gain control on the tube screamer side of it. So it kind of combines the two elements. You put that into a clean amp and you can get some really beautiful tones, and you have individual control of the mid-range. So if you have something more mid-oriented like a Marshall or a Vox, you can take the mids completely out. And then if you have something that's more scooped like a Fender, then you can bring them back into taste, which is a cool feature to have. And I had mentioned earlier that we are having some Black Friday sales. So if you're connected with us on our newsletter, which is on our website, you can sign up for that anytime. You'll get some special offers that we're going to be having over the next week or so. So if you're considering buying one, you might want to wait until Monday when we start kicking out some of those special offers to our followers and subscribers and people who are on our newsletter. Yes, Kamala Harris used to be in Oakland and then in San Francisco in the 90s under Willie Brown, famous or infamous mayor of San Francisco, depending on how you looked at him. Pagani overdrive or Lamborghini horsepower drive. I don't know what any of those are. Isn't a Lamborghini a tractor? Kyle Benjamin, what would you recommend for a drive or a boost in front of a Vertex Ultraphonics? So it depends. If you just want more gain out of it and you don't want to change the tone, then something like the Vertex Boost would be great because it's not going to add any color. It's just going to add more. But I really like how Ultraphonics and Steel String sound together, and being able to combine those sounds great. Not dropping any hints or anything like that, but it might fit in something like this, you might say. So yeah, I would say if you just want more of what's already going on, boost into that. Vertex Boost would be great. If you want to pair it with something that kind of just gets like a really huge, beautiful lead tone, Steel String after the Ultraphonics could be pretty cool. Riley Tech, opinions on the MS3. I love my analog overdrive, especially my tone secret, but I want to be able to have a lot more versatility with my board. Well, I like the MS3. It's cool. I think that the Line 6 HX Effects, though, is better. It is bigger, though. But I do prefer the MS3 to the Stomp if we're just talking about effects strictly. If you're going to be using an amp, I think the MS3 to me is a little bit better because it's a little bit more user-friendly. And sometimes with the HX Effects, you have to have MIDI to really use it effectively. You have to have a MIDI controller of some kind, and so this just makes it a little bit easier to use, I think, with the way the MS3 is set up. So, you know, if you like your analog ODs, that I would only put ODs with your MS3 because I think everything else it does pretty acceptably well. So I would just use those three loops for drives and then take care of everything else inside of the actual MS3 itself. Let's see, TV, what's the best pedal you guys have for funk? Well, the Nile compressor, of course. It's like the funk machine. It's got, you know, old school Neve style preamp, and then it's got, you know, a classic studio compressor. Just like the name says, Nile, it's got that Nile Rodgers vibe. And Prince also uses the same recording technique, and so it's great for doing kind of that vibe, like Chic, Prince. Kind of a lot of the classic clean guitars were recorded that way, even if it wasn't a funk sound. So I'd highly recommend checking out the Nile compressor if you haven't. We have some cool videos of Tim Stewart doing some cool funk stuff. He plays with Lady Gaga, but he also is like one of the funkiest guys you'll ever hear. So definitely check them out. Have you tried the? I'm sorry, I can't read these characters, so I can't say your name. But have you tried the Protein Drive from Brown Amplification? I have actually. The player that he built it for, Adam Snegowski, I built him a pedalboard maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and had some of the early prototypes. So I haven't played the newest version, but the prototypes were super cool. It was a really great sounding kind of Nobles thing. And then I think that there was like a Klon or some other type of drive that was in there on the other side of it, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna go back to our friends over on Instagram. And the folks on Instagram, if you're wondering what I'm talking about on this side, it's just that we're streaming live on YouTube, so everything here is a little more interactive. So if you want to bring yourself over to YouTube, the link is in our profile, so you can check that out. Somebody is asking about what's the difference between the steel string and the Ultraphonics, and this is a question that gets asked all the time. So they're really completely different. There's nothing about them that is the same. Steel string is based on the Steel String Singer, which is a model of Dumble amplifier that's very rare. And the kind of iconic guys that used that style Dumble were Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayer. Those guys were Steel String Singer guys. Single coil oriented, big, fat, juicy cleans. Overdrive Special, which is what our Ultraphonics are based off of, is the classic Dumble sound that most of you would know. So it's like the Robin Ford, Larry Carlton, Carlos Santana, really singing fat lead tones. That's what Ultraphonics is based on. Steel String is based on the Steel String Singer. So if you're going for more of the overdriven sound, Carlos Santana, Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, you want Ultraphonics. If you want more of the Mayer thing, more of the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, you want to go Steel String. So those are the differences between the two. So that gives us a few folks over there on Instagram. Let's head back to YouTube. Jose, the Steel String, is it good to make a Fender amp more mid-range? Yeah, so definitely the filter control is basically an interactive mid-range control. So it gives you everything from, I'd say about maybe 800 to about 1.6K or so. So you can kind of dial in that frequency depending on where you want to put it in relationship to your amp. And it's also just going to give that big fat compression and bloom, which is quintessentially the Dumble sound. And again, on the Ultraphonics and on the Steel String Clean Drive, we had representative models. I had only one Steel String Singer because, there's not a lot of them available. I think there's only 12 or 13 made. But we had the very first one ever made. The second one ever made belongs to John Mayer, and 1 and 2 are the same. It's just 1 is a combo and 2 is a head. So ostensibly, it is as close as we could get in a pedal form factor, the sound of that particular amplifier. So definitely check that one out. And as I said, we have some specials coming up for the Black Friday sales event. So if you want to stay tuned for that, you should sign up for our newsletter so that you can be alerted whenever we come out with those sales. Totally, both are European-based exotic supercars. I'm still pretty sure Lamborghini makes tractors, though. You should look that up on Google. I think that they're a tractor manufacturer as well as a supercar manufacturer. So I just thought it'd be cool if you just bought like a tractor and you told everybody had a Lamborghini. You wouldn't be lying. Riley Tech, I knew it. I asked about the steel string ultraphonics combo. Oh, he's talking about this enclosure. There's something's going to be in there. I can tell you that. TV, are there any specials going on through your website, or can I get the same specials through Sweetwater? Yes, so Sweetwater will be offering these same specials, and you can take advantage of their financing because we don't have any financing offers. And I think that they actually have some special financing offers beyond what they normally do around, like better interest rates or no interest. They may already do that already, but I was just talking with our guy that we work with over there, and he was explaining to me that they're offering kind of better than normal financing options. So if that's something you want to try out and explore, you should definitely check it out over there in Sweetwater. They will be offering that for sure. And another question from TV: if I want the SRV tone, do you recommend a tone secret or another pedal? I think steel string is the first thing that you need to get. You could always get a tube screamer and pair it with the steel string, and I think that could get you there if you already have a tube screamer. If you don't have a tube screamer, then the tone secret's going to be great. I also think, though, honestly, even though it's not really like a conventional way to get there, steel string and ultraphonics together are tone of the gods. Really, really great for that blues thing, especially with a single coil. This makes it so huge. So I definitely check that out. On a different note, which of your drives is best for a general rhythm sound? I like the dynamic distortion, and I just set it for low gain because it's kind of scooped, so it tends to sit pretty well in a mix and doesn't bring too much forward into the mix. And if you're playing with a lot of people in particular, so I really like it for that sound. But also, I like taking the tone secret and taking all the mids out and using that for kind of a rhythm sound. Or HRM also has that filter control, so you can control the mids on that. So it kind of just depends on level of gain. Like just dynamic distortion would be a higher gain thing. The tone secret's kind of more of a mid gain, and the HRM's kind of more of a mid gain, but it has a little bit more of that dumble chirp to it. Let's see. Greg, what Vertex pedal would you recommend for a big switchfoot sounding tones? Well, I could recommend something, but if you want the switchfoot tones, I mean, Drew Shirley has that signature pedal through Jackson Audio, so I think that may be the way to go. I'm not trying to talk you out of buying something from me, but I think that if you want what Drew Shirley is doing, you would be best off buying what he's kind of put his imprint on. So check out, I think it's called the Bell Star, and it's made by Jackson Audio. So check that out. I think you'll be happier with that if you're really going for that tone. Let's see. Alejandro, difference between HRM and normal ultraphonics. So for those of you who are not familiar with the difference between an HRM and the regular ultraphonics, they're completely different, just like how the steel string is completely different from the ultraphonics. So HRM is based on the EL34 ultraphonic sound, or the EL34 Dumble ODS sound. And he made a certain number in EL34 formats instead of the traditional 6L6. Most of us are familiar with the 6L6 sound. But we had a friend that had one with EL34s, and we voiced it based on what that particular amp did. And it kind of is like the love child between a Marshall and a Dumble. So it's got the Marshall kind of mid-range and tone stack, but it still has kind of the big fatness and presence that a Dumble would have. And so it's kind of this mixture of both worlds. And typically the 6L6 Dumbles weren't great for chording. They were more like triad or single note kind of amplifiers. And if you think about the guys that used them, they were really kind of soloists mostly. They weren't guys who were doing a lot of accompaniment or comping for other people. They were doing their own thing. They were playing lead lines a lot. And so they tend to be voiced more toward that, where I'd say this is really more of like, it sounds great for rhythm, it sounds great for lead,
A good example of what an HRM sounds like in the wild is listen to the solo on the song Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And that outro solo, the second solo, that's on a Dumble HRM. And that is like a really, really like awesome rock and roll lead tone. So check that out if you're kind of curious as to what that sound is. I'm going to go and grab a question now off our friends here on Instagram. We have Guitar Dre 510. What's going on, Andre? So the first Ultraphonics is Santana, but what about the HRM? I think I might have answered that one for you. If I didn't, Andre, then tell me and we'll go there. And then we have Penny Mania. You talked a lot about buffers. I use the 4-cable method. Should I have a buffer set up for the front of the amp and the effects loop? So it depends. So what this person's asking here over on Instagram is if you're using 4-cable methods, that just means you're using an effects loop in the amplifier. Do you want to use buffers in the effects loop and in front of the amp? So best case scenario, you would have 3 buffers. One that would be the input buffer, the thing the guitar plugs into, goes through your pedals. Then you have an output buffer, which goes into the front of the amplifier. Then you would send out of the amplifier into, let's say, your delay and reverb. And then you would want a buffer on the return, ideally going back to the effects loop, because that's still driving. You're still relying on that pedal at that point to drive it all the way back to the effects loop. Now, that's in a perfect world. A lot of the effects loops in amplifiers are terrible. And people will say things like tube buffered effects loop, and all of us think that must be great. It's tube. But tube is great for certain things, but if neutral is your goal, having a tube buffer is not ideal, because tubes have lots of color and they add and impart a tone of their own that is not neutral. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't sound good. It just means that that's not going to be neutral. That's not going to be the same as, you know, your a delay plugged directly into your amp or your reverb plugged directly into the amp. It's going to be a different sound than that. So I think solid state effects loops are more neutral if that's the goal. I also think that in an ideal world, because there is no standard for effects loops, so they are all over the place. The impedances are all over the place. There's nothing that is standard amongst one effects loop to another. So the best way to ensure that you're getting the purest signal back is to definitely buffer the return. And you're hoping that the buffer on the send is at least okay, or that there is even a buffer on the send. Most of the amplifiers have that now. So I would say ideally, to answer your question, you want 3. 1 on the input, 1 on the output, and then 1 on the return of the effects loop. So that's what I would recommend. Let's go back to YouTube. Raymond Curry, has anyone done a decent rat pedal? I have an original 1980 USA model and have had a very difficult finding a pedal that replicates it. Even the new rat pedals don't sound right. Well, rats now, I think they make them a lot cheaper than they used to. And some of that stuff is hard to get, like LM308s reliably. Stuff like that is tough, especially the metal can stuff. Somebody told me the 1981 Innovations, I think is what it's called, is good. I haven't played it to compare, but I know I've heard a lot of people talk about that. You know who makes a good one, although I don't know how easy they are to get, is Paul Trombetta. He makes great fuzzes, but he also knows how to make a killer rat. I don't know if he still makes them or what he charges to mod them, but I had one from him and it was incredible. What do you think about the light speed drive? I know a lot of people love them. I've only played it like in passing, like on a rig that I was building, so I haven't had a lot of experience, but I always thought it sounded good. You know, I had no complaints. And I know a lot of people are really, really into it, so must be good. Let's see. Carlos Mora. Let's see. Carlos, we know that soldered is better than solderless, but if I'm not keen on soldering, which brand of soldered cables would you recommend? Is it better to solder yourself or buy a good soldered brand? Well, it doesn't necessarily matter who solders it, as long as it's high quality. But I think that the Mogami 2319 is the one to go with. It's pretty neutral. It's what I use on pretty much every rig, and I've linked that in the description.
And then I've also linked the connectors that I recommend. I really like the square plugs. They're fantastic. But if you don't want to make them yourself, there's companies like Bestronix, which I think I've also linked in the description here, that will make you patch cables to length. And there's other guys that can do it. They can do it as well that I haven't linked. Like guys like Spencer at West Coast Custom. He will make you custom patch cables for your rig, and he does a great job. So you can check out guys like that. Trying to think of who else. There's also Revelation Cable Company. They will make you patch cables and they'll solder it for you, and you just have to tell them the length. There's the advantage of doing it yourself. Is firstly you use a lifelong skill. This is sort of like the riding a bike of guitar tech skills. Once you know how to solder, you never forget, and it's just a good skill to have. But it will also make it so that you'll never be stopped or have your ability to solder be an impediment to you being able to repair a cable or solder up some patch cables. It really is a valuable thing, and it'll save you a ton of dough. Once you learn how to do this, you can make a cable for a few dollars, and even using really good stuff. Whereas if you bought that same cable, it might cost you $18 or $20. So just a consideration, but I do have links for all that stuff I mentioned in the description below. Let's head back to our friends over on Instagram here. Let's see. Will Vertex make a buffer? I think that would be swell. So we do have technically our boost is a dual buffer because there's an input buffer on it and an output buffer on it. But that's not really how people are using it, and it's not really advertised as being that. I've thought about adapting that to a kind of a small pedalboard base size that people could purchase. But the thing that's tricky about buffers is that people don't want to spend money on them, and I think that they think that what they have in their internal pedals or using a Boss tuner is sufficient for their needs, and it's really not. But it's difficult to convince people of that otherwise, because there's been people in the market that have sort of poisoned the well a little bit on what buffers really do and what means just because it says buffer, it means that it's good, and it's just like saying just because I call it an overdrive means that it's good. It doesn't. Not all overdrives are created equal, the same way that not all buffers are created equal. And just want to give people a heads up that I think the battery on the camera is going to die in a second. When it does, I'll just swap it out real quick, but the screen will go black for probably 10 or 15 seconds, so just be aware of that. So I think it's something that we're considering. I would probably have it made overseas if that's the case. That way I could bring the cost down for the consumer, so I would try to keep it as low cost as possible but as high quality as I could. So it would be a matter of just kind of finding the right person, the right company or contract manufacturer that could do it, so that we could keep it affordable as possible, kind of knowing that there's a real threshold to what people are willing to spend. And I think even though I love the Mesa Boogie, I know that they've struggled to sell a lot of those units because paying $220 or whatever it is for the high wire is a lot of money for people, or it's not a justifiable expense for a lot of people, and so they don't always make the decision to use the high wire buffer, and they opt for something cheaper or not as good, and the tone suffers. But some of us believe that it's better to do it that way. So I don't know what to say. Let's take one more question over here from Instagram. How much do you charge for a pedalboard build? Well, I'm not really doing it for a living. I'm just doing it for the purposes of YouTube. So I don't really have any sort of pricing, since it's not really a job that I'm doing. Got a super chat here. Let's add that in. SD Design, thank you again for the super chat. Any thoughts on the 57 custom champ reissue by Fender? Good practice amp, pedal friendly recording. Well, I guess it won't have a lot of headroom. So in terms of pedals, if you're using drive stuff with it, I don't know how well it will take it, unless you really need to keep the level really low so that you don't disrupt your neighbors or other people that may be pissed off if you have a really loud amp. But the one thing that if you want something that's really small like that, I really do think that the Princeton Reverb reissues are really good, especially the silver face ones for the money, and they're not too loud. and it's got a 10-inch speaker, and if you change the speaker on that, like those Alessandro 10s are incredible. You might want to check those out if you end up getting one of them. You can get them for like $65 or something like that, and that's brand new. I would go that direction before I go for the Champ. If you really want something that's pedal friendly and is kind of small wattage, I think the Princeton's maybe 12 watts, and I think what's the Champ, like 5 or 10? I think it's like 5. I think it's pretty small like that. So just a consideration. I'm going to change my battery here on the camera. So I'm going to have Dr. Stephen Brule take over for just a moment, then I will come back and get your super chat there, Zachary. So hold on just a second.
Today's topic is going to be music. We're going to have a lot of fun. Could be good. Music. What would the world be like without it? Who cares?
Check it out! All right, we're back. All right. There we go. I look green. All right, let's go to our super chat. Zach. Sort of working, working-ish. All right, so Zach Walker. I currently use a Keeley comp combined with an RC booster. Let me just make sure, can everybody hear? Sounds coming through okay? Everybody can hear? Sort of hear? All right, well, until I hear otherwise. So I use a Keeley comp combined with RC booster. Thinking about the Nile to replace both of these. Any major sonic differences to expect? So I don't know what the compressor is that it's based off of. Sorry, Zach, I'm just going to fix my focus here. It seems like we're having a little autofocus dilemma. Hold the phone, folks. Just got a quick, I guess I put a dead battery in to my already dead battery. There we go. Bam.
All right, let's see how that goes. All right. Thanks, guys. All right, so as far as the Nile compressor addressing those problems, shouldn't be a problem. I think that in terms of RC booster comparatively, this is probably a little bit warmer sounding the RC booster, but not as dialable. So that's one thing to consider. But I think that you'll like the overall sound comparatively, unless you were using the RC booster to do some really extreme EQing. Because I'd say that the idea of the mic pre is really about fattening things and less about being like a really surgical kind of graphic EQ or parametric EQ. So that's just a consideration. But in terms of the compressor, I mean, it's a classic studio comp. I think you're not going to feel like you're lacking anything in terms of compression for that. So just a FYI. And then Sarge. Let's go down. Super chat. Okay, here we go. Can you run 3 MIDI pedals into the loop of the RGM PVC6X and use its MIDI capability to switch on and off the MIDI pedals to expand it to kind of 8 loops? Yes. So you just have to set, there's a controller message number for all of the Strymon pedals that will turn it off. So when it's set to that number to trigger, it turns off the pedal. So as long as you send the right controller message to it, it will always turn off, and you don't have any need to have it occupy a loop. And that's sort of the dirty secret that a lot of people don't realize is when you're using these MIDI switchers, the best way to expand them is to actually use fewer loops, use the stuff that's non-MIDI equipped in those loops, and then put the stuff that actually has MIDI capability outside of the loops, because you can still trigger them on and off as long as they're connected to the switcher via MIDI, and they can be outside of the actual loops themselves. So they don't have to be physically hardwired in to the loops in order to get that full MIDI availability, ability to turn on and off, ability to call up presets based on the actual changes that are being made in real time. So, cool. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's looking like this for you, but for me it looks like my camera's like focusing all the time. I don't know. Tell me if it's driving you crazy, and then I can try to figure it out. I just for whatever reason, once I change the battery, it's telling me that I've corrupted something. I don't know what's going on. But sometimes with this live chat software, it seems like the cameras sometimes just disagree. Okay, missed this question from Gilbert Rocks TV. Do you think Strymon is going to build a Kemper-style modeler? The Iridium makes me think that they're headed that way. I always thought that they were going the way of like an M13 or an M9. I just think that they didn't want to go there too early because they didn't want to cannibalize their own ability to be able to market their products. So I thought that they were always going that way. But, before you go and get the Iridium, I would check out the Quilter Interblock, because if you're using pedals already, I think that the Iridium sounded really good when I was just using it by itself direct. But then when I introduced good distortion and overdrive pedals with it, it didn't really distinguish itself very much, and I felt like it actually did better. My pedals sounded better when it was through kind of a clean platform like the Quilter. So I don't know. I mean, I can see where the application is, but I think that if you are already using good quality pedals, like this is not the thing that Strymon does best. Like what they really do best to me is the delays, the reverbs, the modulation, and doing the modeling of that particular thing. Where I feel like they haven't done as well as in their overdrives, their compression. I don't know that that's the sound that they hear in their head. And I'm making a huge presumption here, but just when I play those products, they don't feel as inspiring to me, or there doesn't seem like they have the same nuance that's in their delays and reverbs and modulation stuff is in some of those other products that are more overdrive, or kind of like true analog based stuff. I could be way off base, but this is kind of what happens when when you're a guy like me and spending a lot of time with analog overdrive and distortion in vintage amps. I think the Dumble that we have at the showroom is one of the newest amps we have. That was in '91. That one was made. So, you know, as a guy who's a fanatic of old amps like me, that's what I've found. Let's see. All right, SD Design. I think I need the load box, Universal Audio. Universal Audio is cool. You know, I have a aux box at our showroom, and I also have the Boss Waza one. I don't like it as a load box though. The Universal. I really like it for the IR thing, and we've recorded a lot of our Game of Tones videos using the speaker cab simulations in the aux box. But I found that the load box wasn't as good. My favorite load box is the one that's made by Fryette, the Power Station, I think it's called. That one to me sounds the most natural of all of them that I've tried. Let's go back to Carlos. I'm going to take a few more. It looks like we're starting to still get some weirdness out of the camera, and I can't quite figure out why we're having this problem, but looks like the whole coloring of the stream has changed. Okay, one about buffers. What are your thoughts on the need of one buffer when you have active pickups on? I've heard that when using active pickups you don't need a buffer. Well, so I don't think you need an input buffer, or the critical, you know, having on passive pickups, it's really critical that you have an input buffer, because, you know, those pickups are not going to be great at reproducing the sound once it starts going through all these different input impedances as you hit more pedals. But if you have active pickups, it basically has a buffer inside the circuit of the guitar before it comes out of the output jack. So the input buffer is less critical, and in that case, having an output buffer would really be just the way to go. But if you had a dual buffer, it wouldn't hurt. It would just be that you know, as soon as your guitar hit the input of the system, it would then have the input buffer that you put in there take over from whatever the guitar pickups were doing. But that would be, in essence, the same thing would happen if you turn on a pedal. It would undo the buffer from that point forward, as far as anything that the guitar preamp was doing to condition the signal. And take, say, two more. Mr. Alex, I guess maybe that's Alex. What would you recommend for removing dual lock residue from the pedalboard? Okay, this is going to sound bizarre, but you got to Brazilian wax that Velcro. The Brazilian wax technique works great, and by that what I mean is you take the old Velcro that you just pulled off that still has presumably some of the stickiness on it, you push it down over where the residue is, and then you rip it off like you're doing a Brazilian wax or a Manzilian, if you want to keep it gender neutral. And you can just take off the old adhesive that way, and it works really well. And if there is any residual residue, something like Goo Gone works really well with just a towel or a rag, and then you can just kind of wipe the rest of that away. So that's how I'd recommend getting away. And that works great for just regular old Velcro as well. If you have any residue, just Brazilian wax it, and you're there. All right, and let's see. Last question. Make sure I got all our super chat guys. Got all our super chatters. All right, good. If it seems okay. It seems okay. All right, last one. Riley Tech. Have you ever thought about doing Skype pedalboard consultations? You screen record them for some easy, no editing required YouTube content. I haven't thought about it just because my time is pretty limited. You know, like during the day, we're, you know, once or twice a week we're shooting content for the channel, and then the other days, you know, I'm designing new stuff or you know, doing videos with artists or things like that. So there isn't a lot of time for me to do that. I'd like to be more available for that sort of stuff, but the reality is that I can't be, and so I don't really know how to make it work where I can still have a balanced life and be able to give all the content that people want. So I've tried to think about ways that I could do that, but I don't know how I can meet the demand, because we already are pretty tapped out kind of with what we're offering right now, and I'd like to offer more. I just don't think I have the bandwidth to do that. So anyway, guys, we did an hour and 16. I'm sorry we were having some audio problems. I'll see if I can get that taken care of for the next stream. I'm wondering if there's some other app that's running or something like that that's causing this to happen. But we will get it figured out for the next time. And until then, please make sure that if you haven't already, that you subscribe and you hit the bell icon. And I know that every YouTuber says that, and you gotta say to yourself, like, God, man, these guys are so needy. But YouTube will not show you our videos regularly unless you do that. Otherwise, you'll only see them about 10% of the time or less. So if you like what you're seeing here, and if you don't like it, then don't feel obligated to do this at all. But if you like what you're seeing, this is the best way for you to know that we're doing a live stream or we got new content coming out. And we're going to be releasing a video this weekend about kind of my 5 hacks to creating really, really neat and beautiful pedalboard wiring. So like, it'll be stuff like, let's see, that's my quad buffer situation that I'm doing. Let's see this one. No, not that one. Let's see. Yeah. So you can get beautiful lines like that. We're gonna have 5 hacks to really show people how they can get these really nice wiring, what our technique is, and it's really a pretty simple strategy. And if you understand how to implement that, it's really easy to create a really nice, beautiful looking rig and have really nice, neat looms. And so I'm going to be showing people exactly how to do that and kind of my approach and technique, and just a couple of easy tools with some painter's tape and a measuring tool of some kind, and really being able to accomplish that nicely. So please make sure, it's all a long winded way to say, definitely subscribe, hit the bell icon. That always just gives you the first indication that we have something new. And then, I love your comments below, what you think's working about the stream, what you think is not working. I'm trying to do this as regularly as I can. So kind of let me know the direction that you want this to go, and I'm happy to pivot in whatever direction makes the most sense for people. So thank you again for watching, and have a great weekend. Adios.